It's another Human First AI Marketing podcast. I'm your host, Mike Montague with Avenue 9. You can find us at avenue9.com. This week, we're talking custom apps, data science, and marketing with Hunter Jensen, founder and CEO of Barefoot Solutions. You can find them at barefootsolutions.com. You can find Hunter on LinkedIn, or you can just email him, hunter@barefootsolutions.com, and I'll answer your questions. Hunter, really great to have you on the show and dive into this. You know, we always like to start with the human side of things. So your company's named Barefoot Solutions. Are you wearing shoes right now?
I am not, in fact, wearing shoes currently. I am very often not wearing shoes. They're like prisons for your feet. So that is actually the original kind of reason why I named it Barefoot. But additionally, I think it kind of speaks to making things really simple. And we work in a very complex and complicated space. And we're always trying to simplify. And I think that Barefoot kind of speaks to that.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on here. I mean, one, you're doing really cool work for brands, you know, like NASA and IMAX and all kinds of cool things. You know, people can check out their projects on the website. But I think there is this changing environment in tech right now, and especially software development, that as AI becomes able to code, you start getting this snowball effect of maybe people that shouldn't be coding are people that could code can do it 10 times as faster and can make more stuff, which means it might not be as good. But there is also this approach that you mentioned with Barefoot or Human First, that we could make some really cool things that weren't possible a couple of years ago. What are you seeing in general in the market, and where are you trying to spend your time?
Yeah, it's something I spend a lot of time thinking about. As you can imagine, I've been thinking about this for a year and a half. For a while there, it was very foggy and murky, and I'm starting to get what I feel like is some clarity around what's happening. But you know, these tools that have come out, the coding tools specifically, you know, I like to say they came for programming first, because they're all programmers, right? It's
Right.
like the thing that these data scientists know the most about, and engineers is writing code. So that's like the very first problem they're solving. So this is hitting us harder than almost any other industry right now. It's like 6 to 9 months ahead of a lot of other industries, like even marketing, I would say, right? And so, well, what does that mean for us as a business? Well, I am in the business of selling the time of engineers, right, to write code. And all of a sudden, the amount of time it takes to do a particular job is not incrementally less, it's magnitudes less. Like,
Yes.
Majorly, significantly faster and easier, right? And so, you know, one could look at that as an existential threat to my business model. And believe me, I have days where that's how I feel.
Yeah, same. I think that's fair.
But
Everybody
I'm
does.
also, you know, a serial entrepreneur, and I tend to see problems as opportunities. How do we become the best at this stuff, right? My advice to my team probably a year and a half or 2 years ago now at this point was lean in, right? As hard as we can. Don't be afraid of this. Change can be scary, but we have to, you know, we've been around for 21 years, and we've significantly shifted our focus probably 5 times over that lifetime. I mean, we started focusing on data science 7 years ago when we did one of our first machine learning projects for the Department of Defense. So we've been preparing for this for a while, and it was an uphill climb convincing clients that machine learning was as powerful as a predictor as it is. And then we have ChatGPT to thank, you know, in November of 22, kind of opened the eyes of the world to like what we had known for kind of a while, which is like, this is pretty powerful stuff. But what I am seeing is a proliferance of this vibe coding for MVPs specifically, right? You can use vibe coding tools. You've got your cursors and your Supabases and your Vercels and these types of platforms. And you can put together a pretty decent MVP if you're a junior engineer or even just kind of a technical person that doesn't have a lot of programming experience. So that is a change. It used to take 6 to 9 months and $250,000 to build something, and now it doesn't. But there's still a few issues with it. One, I call it the last mile issue. You can get little modules made and little pieces of functionality here and there and open source this, but somebody's got to put it all together. It's got to live on the cloud. Needs a load balancer. It needs a this or that. And that bit has not been solved yet. Not even close. Like there aren't hardly even tools to try and fail at stuff like that. So that's still very much a need. And additionally, with these vibe coded MVPs, they don't scale. And so when it comes time to need to scale, you need the engineers again, right? And it needs to have all the things that will allow you to bring on 100,000 users and still work well and be fast and not be crazy expensive because you're on all this like middleware vibe code, platforms that all have they all charge you for usage, right? At scale, it gets, the economics of it don't even work anymore. And so anyway, that long-winded answer, but that's kind of what I'm seeing right now. And we're drastically changing our business model, including building a product for the first time in response to these AI coding tools.
Well, I want to ask you more about that, but yeah, that was a big question, and I appreciate your thoughts on it. There were several things I pulled out of there. Just as a marketer, I'm seeing the same thing. It's like a really great entry level, programmer or entry level content creator, but that last mile stuff of like somebody's still got to copy and paste, schedule this out, turn it into a functional marketing funnel or something rather than just disparate pieces. And they're working on these one shot, moonshot sort of things. Like I type in one sentence, I want you to make a video game where, an animated stick figure does this, and having it all programmed all the way out and launch it. But that's not really where we are today. It's a really small step functional thing, but that doesn't mean that, there aren't massive time savings like you mentioned, which means you can either, if you can do it in a tenth of the time, whether it's marketing or coding, or data analysis, that means you can either do 10 times as much or you need a tenth of the people. And so I think that's why I decided to start my own company, was like, I'm going to have to do this for multiple companies. I don't see a role in the future where somebody wants to pay me what I was making before to do my work in a tenth of the time. Right.
Yeah.
And I
all,
think that
all of
brings
us
up
that sell time have that problem. Like I had this conversation with a patent attorney where it was like, my clients know now that this is faster and I bill by the hour, and that's a problem for me. So it's across a lot of industries.
Yeah, when I started Avenue 9, I went straight for the retainer because I knew that problem was going to exist. I'm going to have to sell impact, and I'm going to have to sell insights and my marketing expertise, because I can create 1,000 blogs in an hour. I can't charge you per blog, and I can't charge you per hour, because it would be bad for each one of us in this deal. So to make it work going forward, we have to look at some sort of impact model, which I think is a really interesting conversation. But tell me about the software you're developing for yourself now. How are you productizing it or changing your business model?
Yeah. So I'll tell, a story. We had a company come to us, it's they're a defense contractor, and they're constantly dealing with kind of, it's called confidential unclassified information. So it's not technically considered classified, but there is regulations about not sharing it with the outside world, right? And they came to me and said, man, I really wish we could use ChatGPT for stuff, but we can't, because I can't just like upload stuff, into a third party system. He said, well, let's unpack that. Let's see what that might look like. And so I set up a little quick and dirty app for them just locally on their laptop I said, use this for a month or two. Let me know how it goes. And the feedback was like, it was incredibly helpful. The amount of time that they were able to save with certain tasks that are very like document heavy, text heavy work, like, reviewing really long documentation, creating project reporting. And the killer use case was actually writing proposals, responding to our, he told me he thinks he could write maybe 25 to 30% more proposals per year, which has a direct top line net new revenue of $4 million for them. That's what this system could do. So I said, okay, well, let's build something for the whole firm. And I was going to do that as a custom software project because that's what we do here at Barefoot. But then I read about Goldman Sachs and their GSAI, and Cisco has one of these, and BAE Systems has one of these, JP Morgan has one of these. And I realized all the enterprise players are building their own custom self-hosted AI platform to boost their employees' productivity. And I realized that mid-market companies are going to need this too.
Yep.
But they don't have the resources of Goldman Sachs. And so they might need some help. And I went back to this company and said, how about instead of building this for you, I will build it, keep the IP, license it to you, and I can go out and sell this to other folks. And it'll be cheaper and it'll be improved more often and all the rest of it. And they love that. And we were off to the races building Compass, which is what we've called this product, which is a self-hosted, very customizable large language model and RAG database with custom workflows and integrating with all your other systems like your CRM and your content creation and your proposal tracking and all of these things for mid-market companies that don't have the resources for something like this. And and the heavily customizable part is really important because there are a bunch of SaaS companies that are trying to build these like one size fits all platforms like this, and they don't work for companies because they need the custom integrations and they need the custom workflows and they need all these things. Think of it more of like a next generation ERP. Like it needs to work for your business. And because of our background, we can offer that, right? I have over 1,000 engineers. A SaaS company, even with 100 engineers, they never want to put even one person on a custom one-off project, right? They just don't want to do it. But we can do it all day because of just the sheer size of the resources that I have available to me. And so it's a product plus service model. It's like,
I love it.
SAP works. It's like what Palantir does. It's like what IBM does for mid-market companies.
I love a lot of things about that. One, I think that's kind of what I'm trying to do for marketing services too. I think small businesses, if you're a solo one-off person, you probably can't afford solutions. You're going to have to do the off-the-shelf, just ChatGPT, make it work, save your time. If you happen to be in a regulated industry, you're going to have to find one of those things that are an off-the-shelf tool that they're building for, whatever it is, finance or insurance or banking, other regulated industries, and maybe wait some time for that to shake out. If you're an entrepreneur that's just a plumber or something, like, hey, jump on all of these free tools. They're like $20 a month and go have at it. And then, like you said, the enterprise companies are building their own. They're investing millions or billions of dollars to do things. But this mid-market space, I think, has a chance to do something really cool that the larger companies are going to be too big, too slow, too regulated to adapt to. The smaller ones don't have the resources. If you're in the $10 to $100 million range, you have a chance to beat the crap out of your competitors, really get first mover advantage, really build something that works for you finally. But it's going to take some work. You're going to have to build and piece together several different tools because there's no one-shot magic. Just, I get AI in quotation marks and now my company is fixed. It has to speak to all those things. So I think that's a really cool solution that you have there. And I'm excited to talk to you more about it offline off the podcast too, because I'm definitely seeing that need for people. And I think that's where we are in the market right now. Is there's some really cool stuff out there, but it doesn't quite go all the way. Like we were talking about with the coding. It's not a one shot. Oh, let me just enter this prompt and it's going to fix and it's going to enter it into my CRM and it's going to record my calls and it's going to use that data for other things. And we're just not there yet.
No, I think the fundamental problem right now in the way that people think about this is they think in terms of use cases. Like, oh, I'm going to use this tool for this particular task and I'm going to need 9 of them and they're all not going to talk to each other. But I don't think that's the right way to think about it. I think you need to think about it as a platform for your company that includes many tools, many models, many connectors, many things, but it all happens kind of in one place so that you can get that, data pipeline all the way through versus having to stitch everything together, which is what people are doing right now, is a lot of stitching.
Well, roll that back a little bit and give me the use case, because I also don't think people quite understand what is possible these days as far as like leveraging their data. You mentioned a few things like RFPs and other things and having like a custom GPT or a contextual database for your company. But when you're talking about the data solutions that you do, and maybe there's complicated, e-commerce data or other customer data and stuff that you can use, how does that change the game when you do get these things tied together?
Yeah. I mean, thankfully it's complicated. And so they need us to help with it, with these kinds of things. But, just to give you a couple other use cases, a patent attorney, one of the things that he does in his day, if he's writing a patent application, he needs to make sure that the definition of terms is the same across all of the applications for a particular client. The USPTO will reject you if you try to define something differently in a different patent. And so the old way was reading through the old patents and pulling out multiple definitions and making sure the one that you want to use today matches, right? The new way is a prompt that says, review all the previous patents for this particular client, and give me the common definition of a GPU. And that works. And the output, he's very happy with. How many hours did that just save? Right? Yeah. It's tremendous. The value creation with this is wild. Like, we did the math. They think he can save about 6 to 8 hours a week. So let's call it 6. Okay. Bill rate, probably around $500 an hour. 750 attorneys at this particular firm.
Dang.
The value creation there is over $100 million for a system like that. It's like so staggering that I thought I did the math wrong for what,
yeah, right.
It's like, it's almost too big. Like, you want to like temper expectations a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I'm seeing all sorts of interesting use cases. The proposal writing, I have a pharmaceutical company that does clinical trial study protocol design. It's like an 80-page document. 90% of that document is mostly the same across all of their, right? And then there's,
right.
And it's able to massively increase the speed at which they can create a high quality document. It also improves quality, which is not always obvious. But when you're dealing with a ton of information and data, it is very easy for these puny little brains that we have up here to miss things. It's why we have editors and why there's a multi-step review process for everything. What we're finding now, like this year, is that the output of these models are more accurate than the output of like an average human on something that involves a lot of data. Like we are already there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you is, we hear a lot about hallucinations and inaccurate data or things like that. I do find it getting better, but I also still see, if it doesn't have an answer, a tendency to make one up that sounds good. Have you been able to find ways to put limits or corrections on that?
Yeah, we've been able to shave that down. The foundational models are getting better at it in just without us having to do anything. And then there are some techniques that you can do with your prompting and with your kind of setup to shave that down. But something, that we always stress, and this is perfect for this podcast, which is in the data science world, we call it a human in the loop. Mm-hmm. Every output needs to be read and verified by a person. That's where we are today. It cannot be trusted. The thing that it's great at is generating that first draft. And the amount of editing required of the first draft is getting smaller and smaller with every new model release. But it has not disappeared. And if what you're working on is important, a human needs to be in the loop and review it.
Well, and that's good for your programmers, but it's also good for your clients, right? The lawyers is that we still need the lawyer and we need to pay them $500 an hour to review the final draft, but we don't need them to spend 8 hours reviewing all of the other previous drafts and getting themselves caught up to speed on everything. And, but again, just massive amounts of data. There's so many times where it happens in companies, or we've never even used that data before because we haven't had a human way to process it. But there's a tremendous amount of opportunities, even if we don't get to that one shot, like AI wrote it all for me. I can fire all my lawyers now because AI writes the perfect contract for us. It's a good thing that we're not at that state. And I hope that we stay there for quite a long time. But what's your prediction? I see this event horizon that's maybe 5 to 7 years out where we get to true AGI or something, and it really is smarter and making less mistakes than all of our humans. And then I can't predict what happens, but in your estimation, what happens in the next 5-10 years in AI?
Yeah, we could talk for another hour on that topic. I see a few things. The one that I am the most excited about, which is not my area at all, is medicine and healthcare. I think we are going to see just something unimaginable as we find cures for darn near everything. As life expectancy goes up, the most dramatically it's ever gone up in the history of humankind, the fastest that it's gone up. And so I'm just no more cancer, literally no more. And that is such a dream. All of us have been touched by these things. And to me, that's one of the things I'm really excited about. I'll paint, this might not be 5 to 7. This might be 10 to 15, but I'll paint a picture.
Yeah, that's fine.
Here. Imagine a world in which we have nuclear fusion, quantum computing, and AGI. I think I'm going to see that in my lifetime. And those three things combined, which is effectively limitless energy, compute at the very edge of physics, right? And
I think it's past the edge of physics, honestly.
and it's beyond the edge of physics that we actually understand, because we don't even understand how quantum physics works. And the most powerful machine minds that have ever existed. That is a new world order completely. This world is driven by energy. More than anything, energy has shaped the structure of countries and the flow of commerce and all of these things. It all needs energy. Whole economies are based on this. When that changes with nuclear, and there's been some major breakthroughs recently in fusion, that changes everything completely. Quantum computing is going to be able to solve problems that even like current limitations on compute can't solve. And just the combination of those three things together is going to make the world unrecognizable. Now,
so that's our next question is, like, if you have to pick which sci-fi movie you think is closest to what will actually happen, or the one that you would prefer, which one would you pick?
Here's what I would love to see. And this may sound weird coming from an engineer, but I like, I play music and I like more than just technology. I would love to see an artistic renaissance. Okay. And to back you into that, right? You have a world where there is less work to do than people who want to do it or are able to do it. In response to that, governments introduce universal basic income, allowing people to live comfortably without having to work, which means they can do whatever it is that they want to do, which opens up the possibility of millions of people who would love to write a book I bet you have a book idea that you maybe will get around to one day, or they want to paint, or they want to create digital art, or they want to make music. Oh, you have a book. Good for
I
you.
pulled it out. It's so funny because you're describing. I didn't mean to distract you, but I wrote this book, Playful Humans, um, with kind of that same premise in mind, that if we get to within our lifetimes a place where humans don't have to work, which is what you just described, what is the role? What is fun, flow? What does fulfillment look like in a world where we don't really need to work for a living? And I think it's a fascinating question. I think it becomes play. I think you said, I think it's art. There's a lot of different ways to play.
Yeah.
So it can be art, it can be puzzles, it can be games, it can be social stuff. Events and stuff will still be a thing. There will still be people that want to make music, write stories, tell cool experiences, or pass on information in a way that is more entertaining than fact based that we need now.
Yeah, it's not just art. I use that as an example, but it's purpose outside of work,
Mm-hmm.
outside of providing for your family. Where will these people find purpose? Right? People will climb mountains, and people will travel the globe, and people will live on the moon, and people will do the things that bring them a sense of purpose, because we as humans need to feel that sense of purpose. Most of us get that from our jobs and our families,
Yeah.
right? And so what does purpose seeking look like when you no longer have to think about providing for your family, yourself and your family, or their safety or their health or any of these things? And that is such a fun vision if we don't screw it up. And it's up to me and you
Right.
and the people in our generation that are listening to this podcast. We are the stewards of this new tech, and it is our responsibility, all of us, to deliver that incredibly exciting future to our children, because there's a million ways that we can screw this up, and we need to get it right, because the possibilities are too important to mess up.
Now, I think you just had a really great mic drop moment, so I should leave it there, but I'm not going to, Hunter. Hey, it's because it sounds like you've done some cool thinking about this. Are there any characteristics that you think, or things that we could do in order to not screw it up? Like, I think distributed AI, or these, on system things, to not have it all controlled by, Google, Microsoft, or whoever wins the AGI race, and any country that wins the AGI race. I think distributed networks, I think, seem to be a important part of that. Or is there any other safety or criteria thing that you would just like to put out there that we should work for?
Yeah. So I think decentralized distributed compute is an important piece of that equation. If we leave it into the hands of the megacorps, who are now already more powerful than our government, then we're going to be in pretty big trouble. I think if we let China get ahead, like drastically ahead, we are in trouble. In that, the values that would be instilled would be not the ones that would lead to the future that I just kind of outlined.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's important. I also think government plays a very big role here, and making sure that we're electing people that are thinking the right way about this and shaping legislation and regulation, which is a complete snooze fest for me, but it's important, right? And I also think, like, if there's not like a US based Manhattan project for AI right now that's already been doing this for a year, then we very well might lose that race. Now, I do think that there is a Manhattan project happening somewhere right now, but and we shouldn't know about it, but I do hope that is happening, because we certainly know that other countries are doing something similar.
I think so too. I agree with everything you just said there, and I appreciate your thoughts on that and the time today. So again, we've been talking with Hunter Jensen, CEO of Barefoot Solutions. You can find him barefootsolutions.com. Follow Hunter Jensen on LinkedIn, or just email him, Hunter at barefootsolutions.com and ask any of your favorite questions that I didn't have time to get to today or ask for help. Hunter, how can we help you or you help us?
I encourage your listeners to reach out to me. Send me an email, mention this podcast, say, hey, I heard you on Avenue 9. And I promise I will respond no matter what it is. You don't have to be like a potential client or anything like that. Like if you want to talk about AI or you have an idea or you want to run something by me, that's like my offering as a thanks to having me on this podcast, which was great, is please reach out and let's chat.
I love it. And again, with Avenue 9, I like the way Hunter put it. If you need help with that last mile stuff, you want to do some cool things, you want to speed up, save some time, tell interesting stories and put together an AI marketing plan that's human first and builds your community and your voice and stays true to the philosophies we've been talking about here, reach out to me at avenue9.com. Until next time, good luck. Have fun, everybody.